Welcome to the Legged Podcast. As you all know by now, the Legged Podcast is powered by Monterex. Make sure you head over to monterex.com and take advantage of the 15% off they offer if you type in Legged at checkout. Monterex have been the main sponsor of the podcast for a while now, and their gear is a belter. So head over to the website now and take full advantage of the Legged promo code.
Right, welcome to the Legged Podcast. It's me, Jordan Neild.
It's me, Andy Grant, and this week's guest is Darren Farley.
How are we, boys?
What's happening?
You alright?
Yeah, all good.
I'm a big fan, so this is great for me.
We've spoken about it for a while, haven't we, mate?
I've been watching it, watched it grow. It's brilliant, so thanks for having me on.
Boss. Massive thanks again to our sponsors, Monterex and Ver. I'm rocking Monterex today, man.
There's no point asking because it's just all I wear.
So,
With the North Face.
we'll
sponsor me.
We'll think that out. We'll block that out. But as you know, you get 15% off Monterex. Type in Legged at checkout, and 20% off Ver if you type in Legged 20. Go and support the sponsors. Big thank you to them. Mate, I'm excited because I loved your work for ages.
Oh, thanks, mate.
I really loved it, mate. And again, to see, you say you've seen the podcast grow, to see you grow,
yeah,
it's been amazing. And I'm just appreciative of you being here.
Not a problem. No, I know you've been trying to get me on for 6 years, haven't you? So, being like, I'm insane for these today, I can't get down. But no, it's just brilliant, mate. I'd have never thought in a million years when I started doing what I'm doing that it took me to where it took me. You know what I mean? You just kind of like, you remain quite humble and you're like, can't believe I'm like doing this, you know what I mean? But even coming in to speak to you lads today, do you know what I mean? Like, that's, to me, that's great for me. You know, when, things like that, you're just like, it's an honour, it is, you know. So it's just a mad journey.
Do you know what I feel? Sorry, mate. Do you know what I think interesting? Obviously, when you put yourself out there with like comedy or whatever it might be, people think they know you. Which is what I think. Like, for example, I've watched the videos now, will think like I know you.
Yeah.
But it's like your story behind that people probably never get to.
It's confusing that, you know me, right? Because sometimes they will know you. So sometimes it'll be an our schoolmate, and he'll come up to you and go, "Hello lads, how are you?" And you'll go, "Hiya mate," just thinking it's someone coming to say hello, but it'll be someone that you've known from your past. Because as you say, people do seem to think they know you. And in a good way for me, they seem to like what they see, if you know what I mean. So when you meet them, they seem to like kind of be like, oh, you know what, you know, he's an all right lad, and it's nice, mate. It's nice, you know. It is nice when you get people obviously appreciating your work and stuff like that. But you're all right. People do tend to think that, you know, they know you for some mad reason.
Was there, I'm probably jumping ahead a bit, but was there ever a point where when you were getting noticed that you thought, I've maybe gave too much of myself up to the public and there's no Darren, they're just a normal lad anymore? Was that ever a kind of...
Do you know what's weird about being an impressionist? You're never yourself, are you? So you're always someone else, you know what I mean? Like, so someone will come and go, "All right, Stevie lad," or "All right, Rafa lad." It's funny though, because my name for years, "All right, Derek Farley," "All right, Alan Farley," it was always a different name that people would think, but they always got the Farley bit right. But no, it's funny because I suppose, like even doing this with you lads today, it's very rare that you're out yourself. You'll do the odd interview, but they'll be like, "All right, Darren," and then they'll go, "All right, what would Stevie say, or what would Cara say, or whoever," you know what I mean? So it's nice to be yourself and just kind of, because I've always kind of been like, you know, I had a little moment where I thought, do I go into comedy as Darren Farley and do my own thing? But because the impressions have gone so well, I've kind of just stuck with it, do you know what I mean? So I've kind of gone like, well, the impressions work, people like the impressions, so you stick with it. But there's always a little, you know, I think the more so in the last couple of years I've thought to myself, be nice to kind of show people me. Do you know what I mean? Like myself, my own character. So yeah,
I think that's the weird middle ground, because clearly you're a funny lad, like, and obviously
funny looking.
Yeah, well, we all are around the table. So
fucking speak for yourself.
Someone's come up to me and said, "You know what, lad, you're funny. I've got a funny thing." Thanks, mate. That was me, man.
But yeah, I think it's that thing, isn't it, where like obviously you've put yourself out as an impressionist.
Yeah.
But there's obviously different sides to you that I guess people aren't seeing at the minute. Yeah. But is there ever a temptation to be like, not to leave the impressions, but to fully move away?
I think what it is with me, when I first started doing the impressions, I thought to myself, I've got a window here to do it. So like, you know, you've got a couple of years, because you see people come on the scene, go off the scene. It was never it was never an aim of mine to be famous. It was something that happened by accident, and I was thrown in the deep end. Like, a friend of mine filmed a video in his shop. I went in for bacon and eggs for me ma. And I come in, I was on YouTube, like a week later, had like Sky Sports on the phone, all people on the phone. I was going, what's going on? So it was never like, I want to be a stand-up comedian or I want to be. So I was thrown in. Like I remember getting a phone call off, I think it was a friend of Jamie Carragher when he had the Jamie Carragher place in Sino. He had the restaurant, saying, can you come and do a gig on Saturday? I never sang a karaoke song. And there I am, and he's like, go ahead, you're on. And I'm going up with a mic in my hand, and I'm like, hang on, what am I doing? I don't even know what to say, what to do, but because I was thrown in the deep end so badly, I kind of got a little bit of a taste for it then. And I was like, do you know what? Because I wasn't aiming to carry on. Thought I'll just have a little, what did he call it? The 5 minutes of fame?
Yeah, flash in the pan.
Yeah, and the fame has never interested me. It's obviously, like, what I will say is I love the appreciation for the work I do. That's really nice that I love that. But in terms of fame, that was never something that interested me. It was something that just kind of happened. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, hang on a minute, I can do something with this. And then gradually as the years went by, I had a moment, you know, in about, I'd say 2010, 2011, where I was like, oh, I might leave this now. Not really, don't think it's going anywhere. It went a bit quiet for me. And then I started working, I'd done a play called One Night in Istanbul. I don't know if you've seen it. And I was in that was another one. I'll go into that in a minute. That was like thrown in the deep end. Jesus, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. Honestly, didn't have a clue. And I met one of the actors in it, a guy called Steve Fletcher. He's one of my best mates now. Honestly, he's a brilliant lad. And he was like, look, why don't... He just started like a management company. And he said, look, I'll work with you. You know, we'll get a camera. We'll go out and film. Honestly, it was the biggest game changer ever. At that time, YouTube was obviously the only platform, but then Facebook were doing videos, and then you had the likes of Twitter started doing videos, and the vids were doing really well. So you were getting gigs off the back of it. Then we got like sponsorship for the videos. So I had that moment where it was like, I'm gonna jack this, and then all of a sudden it just went out of nowhere. First video I done, the one I went on YouTube, was 2008, but I never done anything with it. I was still in my normal job at the time. It was bizarre, right? Because I was a gardener at the time, landscape gardener. And in the morning, when I first started, when that video first went onto YouTube, I went in like I was cutting grass and, you know, doing a bit of stimming. I was doing the Liverpool players' party in the night.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So there I'm stimming someone's garden, and Xabi Alonso was buying me a pint in the night.
Wow.
It was bizarre. It was like a meeting of two worlds. So it was kind of like, hang on a minute, I didn't know where I was going. It was like, you're this normal lad. I was living in Kenny at the time. I was still in my Mars. It was just like, it was bizarre. I was going to work, and then you were getting these massive gigs though, like, and you were meeting all these, like, and I was like, what's going on? I don't know what I'm doing here. Do I leave my job? Do I do this? And then that's why I think it was like, oh, I need to make a decision here. And then, as I was saying before, in 2010, I was a bit like, maybe give it a miss. And then something out of nowhere, working with Steve, doing the vids, boom, that was it then for me. Do you know what I mean?
It's crazy how often that point where you're like turning back, it's like with a podcast or it's any job, innit, really? But that point where you're like, you know, I'm going to leave it is so often a time when, you know, you get your break or whatever. It's weird.
What was then, you know, your life like prior to maybe this video?
It's just it's like a different life. Seriously, like a different life. When I look back, happy, don't get me wrong on that, but, you know, it was just a different life, you know. And then all of a sudden, I'd never tasted anything like that. It was kind of like, at the time, you see, there wasn't many like YouTube, you know, what you call it? They called it at the time YouTube sensation, I think they called it. Now, I didn't have a computer. I didn't have a laptop, I didn't have a PC, so I hadn't seen the vid. Everyone had seen it. I was going, I didn't have a phone or anything at the time. So this was 2008. Phones were going then, obviously. Yeah. We'll get into the phones in a bit. I wasn't interested. It was quite like almost under the radar. You know, you wouldn't really hear from me. I just kind of kept myself to myself. And all of a sudden, the video had kind of like smashed it. And like, you just kind of like, hang on, where's this come from? I didn't really know what was going on. It was just, it just come out of nowhere. And it's so weird, because when it first happens, before it, obviously, you just, your normal life, you're going to work, but I was going to work, and when I was going to, say, I could keep saying cutting someone's grass, they were like, oh, aren't you that lad who does the Impressionist? Colin? Yeah. So, what do you want me to do, mate? Do you want me to do Gerard for us? Can I just do that, sort these plants out first? And it was bizarre. So it was like, you know, when you, it was just mad. And then obviously you go out for a pint, you know, people would recognise you and that. And it was so different. It was just so different. It was bizarre.
You know what's dead interesting for me, and this is, I work with Jordan on this now, but without getting into the kind of personal details, but how did you find those initial days of kind of, this is your skill, you know, you're very good at it, and people, and you're new to it, and people are saying, oh mate, can you come and do this? And like you say, you've never done it before. How does that kind of then business model then? Because I know when I started doing speaking gigs, people are going, oh Andy, can you come and just say a few words? And I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But then it becomes a job,
of course,
and then there's that awkward thing of actually, well, I can, but I'm just thinking, because I know I've been through it, and it's very hard to sell yourself sometimes, and you undervalue yourself and stuff, and that's something I've learned the hard way. How was it for you?
Did you find as well, what I found was that a lot of our mates come out the woodwork a little bit when I started, and it was like, oh, can you come and do this Christmas party? I hadn't spoken to them for like 8-9 years, and then all of a sudden, they're your best mate, and you know what I mean? That's how I found it. So I wasn't naive, you know what I mean? I've always had a very small group of mates, close mates, but I was going, well, you blanked me in the street last week, and now you want me to go and do your nan's 70th? It's a bit bizarre, you know what I mean? It was a bit weird at the time, but you are right, and luckily, obviously I got a little bit of management, because I couldn't deal. People were texting me, and people started putting it on like Twitter and that. Like, you know, I had like, there was a lad I knew through someone who said, look, how much would you charge? I'd give him a price, which was what I was getting at the time, and he was banging it all over like Twitter saying, oh, Darren Farley lost the plot. I was going, I was like, texting him, I went, what are you doing, mate? I didn't get it. It's just like, you do find that early on, because you don't know, as you say, it's almost like a party trick. People are like, oh, can you do some impressions, or can you do this? Oh, come to me, our fella's party, and, you know, do a few impressions or whatever. And then gradually, I think you just learn as the years go by. Look, this is a job. I've got to earn from this. You know what I mean? In those 2 years, from like 2008, 2010, I probably wasn't giving myself any kind of respect, or I was probably just kind of, don't get me wrong, I wasn't turning up to 70th birthday parties, but yeah, I think gradually when I got a little bit of management, then I didn't have to look at that side, because I have always found that so awkward to deal with.
That's horrible.
When it comes to like a charity event, I'll be there, mate, 100%. I'll be there. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't say no to none of that, and I wouldn't. You just...
I've seen you at loads of them, mate. I know I can vouch for you and that.
Yeah, but you know how it is. With a lot of things, they kind of hit home, don't they? And I'm like, oh yeah, listen, I'll be there no matter what. But it can be... You do get to a point, and as you were saying, Andy, you're in the kind of the same bracket, going out and doing the speaking and that, and you get to a point, I think it just takes time when it's thrown upon you. I think you might have had that a little bit as well, where you kind of like... not thrown under the bus, but you're thrown in the deep end a little bit, because I didn't have a clue about, like, it wasn't like I'd been learning about comedy for 5 years and then I'm in the spotlight. I'd never done it, so all of a sudden you just, I mentioned before about this play that I'd done, this One Night in Istanbul. It was brilliant, the cast were fantastic, they were lovely people, but I was, honest to God, it was one of the worst experiences in my life. Like the first one that we'd done, right, because my nerves were gone, right? It was theatre. I wasn't an actor. The lad who'd written it, Nick Yolt, lovely fella, it was great. He said, Darren, would you come and do like a cameo part? And I thought, I'm going to go on and do like Gerard or something. But I was a reporter. There's a lot of dialogue and a lot of stuff, and it's different to do an impression. It's just like, I had to create this character, but the director must have been up the wall with me. Because I just didn't... I got a script, and I didn't even learn the script. Like, I was like, you know, because you just... I wasn't an actor, and I didn't really realise what I was getting into. I wasn't that professional at the time. So think about it, I've been doing the impressions for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they're like, come and be in a play, The Empire. Is it, what, a couple of thousand people in The Empire? Honestly, the first night we were doing it, in the rehearsal, 8 of the rehearsal, like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And then the first night, my nerves, people must, I was just like, what am I doing? What am I doing this? I was cacking myself, seriously. And but I say it was one of the worst experiences in my life, but it was also a great thing, Because I kind of like, I was thrown in the deep end, and I kind of learned. And then we done the first run, and I done well. Don't get me wrong, I done quite well. But the second run, you know, was amazing, because I'd learned, you know what I mean? Hang on a minute, you do have to learn your script, you do have to read your lines and all that. But it was just like, it was saying to you before about that collision of two worlds, where you're like, you're still one of the lads going out with your mates and having a laugh and that, but then you forget that you're doing this. But I didn't realise like it was a job. Like it become like a job, and like, okay, you've got to be a bit professional now. First couple of years now, I'd go to a gig and I'd have a pint. You'd say, do you want a pint or whatever? I haven't done that for like 8-9 years. So I go to a gig and total professional, just you know, drinking water. You just change, you know what I mean? But it takes time.
John Bishop said that when we had him on, you know, he said the exact same. He said, and it can be weird as well, because everyone's maybe, you know, had a beer and there's a big euphoria in the room, and then you leave that and then you kind of drinking water on your way home and it's quiet, no one's there. And
I find that really difficult, the coming down. Honestly, I am like, I think what it is with me, I'm so overwhelmed sometimes by, I still pinch myself a little bit when you're going and doing these gigs, and you know, you're doing it to, you know, I know there's comedians who've done it to like 40,000-50,000, but say like, I think it was 10,000 is probably the biggest audience I've performed in front of. Like, I found that really difficult to come down from. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I can never sleep after a gig. Even if I've done really well, or even if I've had an absolute stinker. Luckily, most of them do go quite well. But I'm always over-analysing, I'm always overthinking, like, you know, wow, what happened there? That didn't sound good, or you're just consumed by it. But I've learned to, because it'll happen after the gig for a couple of hours, and then I'll completely forget it, and I'm alright then. But for that first couple of hours, you just like, to come down.
I guess it's a high you can't replicate though, innit? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, how are you going to replicate making 10,000 people laugh? It's impossible. Yeah. And I guess that's why there's so, you know, substance abuse and all that.
I only made 20 people laugh.
Just the front row.
Just a few. They're clangers, mate, I think.
Yeah, but it's like, I guess that's why people start searching for highs, isn't it? Because, you know, how else
Listen, I get it. You know what I mean? You think about musicians, that's a different level. When you, with comedy, it can be the greatest thing, but it can also be a very lonely place as well. And with me, what I found when I first started off, because I didn't know what I was doing, I was going to gigs and I was just falling like flat on my bum, and I was like, it is a horrible feeling, that.
I need to go into that, yeah. I mean, what?
No, my biggest fear, that means, oh my God.
Because you know what I want to do? I want to have a go. I'm not funny, but I've got funny stories, and I think I could, if I sat down with...
But it's not always about that, it's likability as well.
Yeah.
It's likability.
And I'd love to have a go at doing that, but it's for that reason.
Yeah.
I want that kind of, that anxiety of feeling, shit, this could go fucking wrong here, you know.
Do you know what, mate, right? It's like an addiction, that. It's like an addiction, because I don't get nervous now, because I've been doing it for years. I'm all right now. I can manage myself. But when I first started, it's like a painful pleasure in a little bit of a way, because it's like, this is amazing what I'm doing, but at the same time, you're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it. But you're like, how amazing is this?
Yeah.
If, you know, when you're performing in front of these crowds, or you're with these certain, you know, we've all had heroes in the world of football, and you're going, how am I here? How am I doing this? But you doubt yourself, don't you? I think we've all got that little thing, and you're just like, you know, I'm gonna fall, and you just have that moment of doubt all the time. I still get that now.
I think it's that feeling of wanting to know how you'd react in that situation. I had it before, like when I was in the Marines. It was like, I wonder how I'll react when I'm in Afghan. I wonder, and now I've got this, I wonder how I'd react if I was on stage, not being funny, and I was bombing.
Oh, we can set it up. We can set that up.
Just come to my next gig, film that, and then go, oh yeah.
That's what it's like, yeah. what is that like, mate? Have you got a gig in your mind where you went, it's not gone well, and you can...
About 50. Well, last night.
What's that feeling like? When you're thinking, I don't know, maybe a couple that normally drop really well and they don't quite hit the mark, and you're like, oh, fuck.
It's...
Trying to describe that feeling.
You learn to deal with it. I'm getting it now. Thinking about it. You learn to deal with it. Do you know what I mean? I think it's experience. I can walk into an event now and go, these aren't gonna. Honestly, I remember going into one, they were all about 90, and most of them were women. And I said to the fella, why have I been booked for this event? He said, oh, I love your vids.
Just one
fella at the bar.
Yeah, he was just at the front going, and everyone else was just going, falling asleep and everything. And but I was laughing, Because in my head, as I'm doing it, I'm like, these aren't even listening to me. They're not interested, but the professionalism kicks in then. So you're like, you carry on, and I've had some where you'll have a crowd where they'll just talk over you. I've had some, I done one at the, is it the football hotel in Manchester? It was Man United fans, and they booed me on. They booed me on.
Good start.
So, but I turned it round, just having a laugh with them. Just going, I know he's all hate me and stuff. But again, I was like, why has he booked me for the events? But to be fair, they ended up being a good little crowd because I just kind of I turned them a little bit.
It's a testament to you that though, mate. You can go into a bloody hotel in Manchester, getting booed on stage, and then by the end you got a good rapport with them.
Character building that at its extreme.
I remember doing an Everton one though as well. But the thing was, it was for charity, the Roy Castle charity, boss charity, mate. And Duncan Ferguson was there, loads of Everton characters were there. It was an Everton crowd, because it was for charity, it was alright, but you know, when you just felt no one likes me in this room. At the time, Martinez was the manager, and I'd never done any Everton characters. It was always Liverpool. You always get this thing with Evertonians where they're like, oh, biased. Before I'd done any Everton character, I'd done Hodgson, Rafa, Gerrard. Said Carrot, haven't I? Brendan Rodgers. I'd always take the piss out of him. Sorry, I can't swear, can I? I'd always take the mick out of my own club before anything. But Evertonians have always had this thing of like, oh, he's a red, he's a cop-out, and he takes the mick out of Everton. That's only 90% true. You know what I mean? but I was doing loads of Martinez stuff at the time. I remember going, because it was for a great charity, you're like, oh, of course I'd do it. And I think they realised that. But no one laughed. That was the revenge you got, you know. No one laughed. I think Big Drunk had a chuckle. That was before I started laying into it.
God. Obviously, going back, like as a kid, you mentioned Kenny before. Like, where did you grow up in Liverpool and stuff?
Yeah, so I'm from Kenny. Lived in Kenny for years. Molyneux Road in Kenny. Great, mate. Great. You know, as we know, I went from Kenny to Norris Green. Kenny growing up, great. Not a problem. All me mates were there. Then I left Kenny when I met my wife. She's my wife now, I think. For the time being. I've only met. And then I went to Norris Green. Norris Green, mate, gets knocked. Like, the best people, honestly. Then that community, Norris Green, the nicest people ever. We've moved now, just by Crocky Park. And Norris Green, we just love it. Love it. Like, just the neighbours were lovely, everyone was lovely, because it gets a little bit of stick, you know. I always like to say stuff like that, because you'd always get that thing, don't you, of people going, oh, it's rough, that. For me, it was great. Me kids go to school there, even now, love the area. So I lived there for like 8 years, and then we moved. Then, so, yeah.
You always good at impressions as a kid and stuff?
Yeah, I don't, do you know what? I don't teachers more in school, so like seniors and that. There was a teacher that I'd do in school. Football, I started doing, so not when I was really young and that, but I'd play footy heads and volleys with my mates, but I'd pretend to be John Motson. Remember John Motson? So I'd be commentating.
That wasn't because you were shit, was it?
No, I wasn't too bad, actually. I wasn't too bad. But I'd just be commentating. So I didn't get a game. And I'd do Motson. That was about it, only Motson. And then I did love Alistair McGowan at the time. I've never been into other impressionists, right? It just what, but Alistair McGowan, when he done this football thing years ago, I think it was a video VHS at the time, like, and it was called Football Backchat, and I was obsessed with it. It was him doing like all that. I can't remember the managers at the time, probably Fergie and Wenger and all those kinds of characters. And I never had an interest in impressions, but I'm obsessed with footy, like beyond. I've even had to like kind of look at it like an addiction now. I feel like if you could go to like I've heard Carrot been on this, I've heard him talking about it.
He is,
I think I'm on par with Carrot, you know.
Lad, I've probably said the story on the pod before. I remember being in the gym with him, right, the day after we got beat 7-2, you know, by Villa, you know, that freak result. I have never seen anyone more wound up over a game of football in my life. I'm like, lad, you're not even playing for them anymore. And for like an hour and a half, he's just going, lad, why isn't he doing that? I was like, lad, fuck, he is obsessed.
Well, going the match years ago, I went home and away with Liverpool for years. When I was a kid, up till I was about 22, 23 maybe. And then it just kind of fizzled out. Then you have kids, don't you, and stuff like that. I'll go every now and then, but I was obsessed with Liverpool. But I loved Carragher. I absolutely loved him because of that. You don't get them like that no more.
No, it's like watching yourself, innit, what you do.
Yeah, you know what, mate, right? You go to Anfield, you could hear a pin, you could hear Carragher screaming, couldn't you? Half the time at that Degan, it was right. No, but I loved his passion. Do you know what I mean? Gerrard was unbelievable, great captain, but I always felt like Carragher was just a leader, you know, and that passion that he had all the time. But I think I get on really well with Jamie Carragher because there wouldn't be any other conversation. Probably the same with you lads as well. It's just footy. I don't want to talk about nothing else though. It's literally, it's an obsession, and it was like an addiction, and I think that's where the impressions come in a little bit. Because I was just watching interviews and Sky Sports News when that come on the scene. That Talk Sport on, it's the same now. It's never off. You know what I mean? I'm making the kids see in the kitchen. Talk Sports on, Sky Sports News is on. I don't miss a match. Even like I'm into the Scottish footy now. That's how bad it is. St Mirren and Dundee. Tuesday night, and I'm sitting here.
Clash of the Titans.
You can get into 8th place if you win tonight. It's an addiction.
You know the problem with me, because I fucking love gambling, right? So if I had that level of addiction, right, I would be fucked. I mean, like, Iceland to fucking Division 1. Let's go.
On the 9s.
It's not got that bad. Don't get me wrong, but La Liga, you know, Serie A a little bit. Jeez, honestly, it's just.
How do you find out then? Because they say, don't they, it's sometimes quite dangerous to mix your hobbies with your work, because sometimes you can end up then hating, you know, for example, if you're having a bad day at work, but your work is your hobby, what you love.
It's the best job in the world to me, because football, it's everything to do with football. And obviously with me, I'm like, I've got this kind of OCD thing where I can't miss anything. If there's a certain character I do that's related to something that's happened, say like Steve Bruce, he's just got the West Brom job, and I can't miss that. I'm like, I can't miss a story. It's nothing to do with like, I've got to, you know, put it online and get loads of it. It's nothing like that. It's just like, I've got to do it. I've got to write a script about it. I've got to do it. I don't want to miss any story. And that's just to do with my obsession with football. It's just like a total obsession, and it relates to the impressions, and it's almost like you become addicted to doing the videos because you want to talk about footy. You want to have a laugh about footy. And I get my message across in the vids a lot of the time. So, you know, you can have an opinion, you know, you lads might go onto Twitter and go, he's had a terrible game in today. I kind of get that message across sometimes through my videos.
Yeah.
You know, I've been doing this Agent Rafa stuff lately. I didn't even have to write a script. I felt like Rafa could have done them vids. Because I was just saying what was happening. Do you know what I mean? But I was sitting there and I was like, I can't do another Agent Rafa vid. I've done too many now. I'm doing it after every game. But I was like, I've got to. There's like 20 things I could say. Like, it's too much.
You're fucking hilarious, lad.
Oh, nice.
Well, they are hilarious. They're still like.
When I guess when stuff's writing itself though, that must be like that must be heaven for you. Just like
the certain characters, the Rooney stuff.
Oh, that's my favourite, mate. The fucking American football helmet kills you.
He must absolutely hate me. He must hate me. Well, the American football helmet, right? Initially, it was going to be basketball, right? So when he went to America, because there was always like a prop with Rooney. So when he went to Everton, he said like he's got Everton pyjamas. So I just had the Mazalan pyjamas.
I had to drink them because I'm going to crack over this bit.
I literally drawed the Everton badge out unprofessional. I probably just went out and bought Everton pyjamas. And I'd done Improv instead of Umbro on it. And I'm in my 30s and I'm like, what am I doing? And then when he went to America, I thought I would do a video on him being in America. So I went to like Sports Direct and got a basketball and that. And I went, hang on, no, American football, the helmet, get the helmet. So I put the helmet on in that vid. I think that vid kind of done quite well with the helmet. And then it was like, I've got to keep the helmet. But then he come back to England and I'd done a vid without the helmet and heads were falling off. Get the helmet back on now. The helmet stays now. The helmet stays.
That recent one we went, what did you say? No, I'm not doing a year, I want at least 12 months. Or I want at least a year.
But even that, if he'd have got the Everton job, I mean, I'd have had about 20 vids lined up because, you know, it's not unfair. I always say this, right, because I've actually met Wayne Rooney's cousin and his 2 brothers, great lads, and they seem like, oh, it's great. They've been great about it, but you've got to say it's nothing personal. I do like loads of different impressions, but what it is with Rooney, I'll always use something small and I'll take it to another level. And obviously with Rooney, and I'm sure he'd admit this himself, he says a lot, doesn't he? Do you know what I mean? So thinking, caution, but that's what happened. But even now when you watch the vids, you know what I mean, that's what it's like. But I was like, if he gets the Everton job, oh my, I won't be able to go on County Road ever again. He'll kill me.
We'll probably bring that up a bit later in the podcast, but the Everton thing, do you ever worry about like obviously you said you were skating Liverpool players and I've seen you do that, but obviously like Everton fans get personal about Everton more, I'd say more so than Liverpool get personal about Liverpool.
I was shocked by it early on, because as I was saying before, the first one was Roberto Martinez. Now I've got some of my closest mates to Blues and that. I've never had an Evertonian come up to me and say, I've never really had any problem, but every Evertonian who you meet is like sound and great. Not everyone likes what you do. That, mate, I was saying before, weren't we? Like, you'd have to have a bit of an ego if you thought everyone found you funny, because my missus looks at me sometimes and goes, how are you doing what you're doing? Honest to God.
My half lad, I live next door to my half lad, I'll forget my key or something like that. I have to knock and go, like, let's borrow my key. He goes, how the fuck people think you're an inspiration? He went, I fucking never know.
Cheers, Dad.
By the way, thank goodness I can do impressions. I can't even use it. I'm a nightmare.
Preaching to the choir then.
Yeah, same.
Me. What do we do? I don't know. What do we do with the wash me? I don't know. Honestly, it's just like, I'm thinking about St Mirren and Dundee.
All they need is fucking 2 goal difference.
I think we're all definitely the same, like the worst men's men. The other day, my hob wasn't working right. I rang my half fella, went, come and look at this hob for me, went, it's broke. He went, he opened the cupboard, as I put a pan in, I'd fucking put the switch off, it knocked the switch off. He just went, you've turned it off, you fucking know when you put that pan in. I was like, oh my, imagine if I'd rang someone out though, to come and look at it.
Do you know if I said in ours, if something went wrong and I said to my wife, yeah, I'll do it, she'd just look at me and just laugh her head off to say, shut up.
No, mate, do you know what? I'm not even joking now, right? My missus is the man of the house, right? She is unbelievable with, honestly, everything. DIY. It's embarrassing. I'm ashamed I'm admitting it. But she can do anything. She's just great. I think her mum and dad are quite handy as well. But with me, honestly, my mum will go, Darren, something's going on in the house. I'll go, I'll ring me mate to come and sort it. I can't sort anything. I'm just like, my mate does that. Everyone, if you've got good contacts in that.
That's brilliant.
But getting back to the Everton thing, it shocked me at first, that, because what I found mad about it was, as I say before, listen, if I'm taking the piss out of an Everton manager or a player, of course they're going to get upset. Of course they are. They're like, oh, you divvy, you know, but some of it was like so personal. Like it was like when you bring in your kids and stuff into it and stuff, I was like, oh my God, got really personal. I even had a point where my mum lived next door to a couple of Evertonians who started grief with me mum over what I do. Yeah. They were saying stuff about me man online to me. I found that hard. Because obviously your natural reaction is to go...
Aggression,
yeah. So, but I had to hold it together, and it got sorted in the end. I won't go into it too much, but that's how personal that it gets. And I was like, as I was saying before, the thing with the Everton thing, obviously I'm a Liverpool fan, but the Everton thing was never a personal thing. You take the piss out of Man United, Liverpool, Brendan Rodgers. And Rodgers was the man, mate. Honestly, I've met Rodgers. Rodgers is great. But obviously that's the story at the time and you go with it. But with Everton, they just keep hiring managers that can do. So they go...
You must be part of the job description.
Yeah, I think so.
Can you be a person?
But I done a Lampard video the other day and oh my days. I don't go on and read the comments, but one of my mates is... He'll find the funniest ones, the most, and he'll just send them and go with laughing emojis, some of the things, honestly, that get said. And it's but it's almost come a point now where it's almost like a bit of ammunition now. You get stick off the Everton fans, there's another one coming now. There's another one coming, but as you say, it was a bit shocking in the beginning because you're a bit like, freaking hell, you know what I mean?
It's comedy.
It's only a little bit of a joke, but as I say as well, you can't also read too much into social media and with Twitter because it's not real.
No.
It's not real. Every Everton fan that I've met is sound. and I mean sound. They're like, you have a little bit of a laugh, no, stop it with the Asian laugh and stuff or whatever. Honestly, sound. Twitter is a different thing, innit? You know, behind the screen, but Twitter is...
I think what you've said there sums it up though. It's not real. Like, and I say it to the point where praise is not real on there either. Do you know, if people want to be like, you're the best thing ever, you have to be careful with that as well, because, you know, both sides of it. And I guarantee, you know, 80% of people on Twitter, the personality in real life's different anyway. Or,
well, I'll be honest with you, right? I've got friends of mine who are different people on social media, and probably family members as well. They're not bad people, but they're not being themselves. Like, you know, you see someone go, he wouldn't normally put that. Great lad, I've known him for years, quiet, wouldn't say anything. But on Twitter, even the footy stuff, now we all get passionate about footy. We could say, if you don't like a certain player, say that you didn't like Jordan Henderson, for instance, say you didn't like Jordan Henderson. I find it bizarre that people go on and go, Henderson's a no, all that. Listen, right, you're allowed an opinion. These lads are on Bruce, these and I get it. But you know, when it gets to a point where I absolutely hate, or I don't get it, mate. I just don't get it. And I think with social media, I wasn't on it until I started doing the impressions. So when the you know, Twitter started doing the videos and Facebook were doing it and the likes of YouTube and that, I was shocked, me. Because initially you do read like what people are saying. I haven't read comments, I don't think, for about 5 years.
It's mad, I think, that level of hate. Listen, I've went on and kind of went, oh my God, he's shocking him or whatever, and said like the odd thing, and that's it. But when you see whether it's in YouTube comments or Twitter, and like the kind of when it gets personal, who's got that much energy to think, whether it's the podcast, whether it's you as a comedian or whether it's a footballer, who's got that energy to go, I want to go online and say, I fucking hope his fucking kids die, or I think
that's why they do it, because it doesn't take energy, because there's no repercussion. Whatever you put on there, there's nothing coming back. Like, I could go on and write about you and say, you know, go into like Afghanistan, your kids, whatever. Nothing is coming back to me unless you come and find me. Do you know what I mean? And
see, you're spot on there. There's a balance to it, because people are allowed an opinion. And I've always said, if someone doesn't like my stuff, don't get me wrong, I don't get anyone saying you're shit or you're crap. If you don't like it, why are you watching it? I remember this fella, mate, every video he'd come on. I just remember this was years ago when I first started doing it, and he'd come on and I'd be like, why are you still watching the vids? Never said it. I've never replied to anyone, really. Never. I think I replied once because some fella said something about bullying or something. I was doing Harry Kane, and the Kane one was a bit but the Kane one is a bit, I was worried about doing him, Kane, because I thought, I don't want it to be perceived as personal. Do you know what I mean? I don't want it to, because you're playing on something small, and you're like, he's the England captain, he's Spurs, but you know, I was just worried. I never done him for like 2 years, and then I was like, I've got to do Kane. He's the captain of England, he's a spokesperson for everything. I've got to do it. But that, you know, the Spurs fans with Harry Kane, it's like an illness. It's like an illness with them with Harry Kane.
Just defending him to the
anything you do on Harry Kane, it's like you're talking about their kid or someone. It's like, don't say, you know, they just go.
You know what you might think about Harry Kane, he's quite quiet in that. When I've done the England stuff with them, he's got like this aura about him, and you can tell why he's captain, you know. He's just got something about him, and you're like, I can see why you're the leader. He's very an impressive person to be around.
Do you know what, mate? What a player. What a player. Honest to God, I feel so sorry for him. I do, because
I think if he'd went to that City team, mate, City would be fucking 10 or 15.
That was my worry. I think Guardiola, mate, I still can't get my head around it. I love Jack Grealish. I'm one of his biggest fans. Didn't need him. Didn't need him. Go and get Harry Kane. That's it. Honestly, as a Liverpool fan, same as you, I was panicking. I was like, if they get Kane, that's it. Doesn't matter who you've got. They are, because he is. I still think he's underrated. That's how good he is. I think he's still underrated, Harry Kane.
He's like the Alan Shearer mould, isn't he? Like, do you know what I mean? He's just like, boom, he'll just get in your 30th season done.
He's had some bad injuries now, though, do you know what I mean? And that's what I think that's what sort of, I think he needed to go to City when it was happening, because as his body's now sort of slowing down a little bit, not dramatically, but he's
just another year on.
His ankles when he plays, mate, he looks like he's wearing them old school shinies. You remember them?
The ankle bits.
Well, he must be throughout the week, like he must be walking like a robot, mate.
You're right. It's like it's passed on by, that move now.
Yeah, I think so. You know, you say like you've kind of had Harry Kane on your mind for a couple of years. Have you? when you kind of started off and, you know, it got more traction, you were getting kind of gigs, did you have like, and when you kind of made the decision to go at it full time, did you just have like a hit list, did you, and thought, I'll do him?
So early on, there was only a couple of characters that I'd done really, and I think, you know, the one thing that always got thrown at me was the 3 Scousers. You can only do Scousers, and at the time I could only do about 6 or 7 impressions. Not that I could only do it, but it was like there weren't any other big characters in the game. There wasn't many massive character managers. There was a lot of, and then I'd probably say about 2012, 2013, a lot of big players come on the scene, a lot of big managers come on the scene, and it just kind of, you know, because you can only, with me, there's got to be something about the character. So there's just got to be something you can play with. And some you'll do and then you'll go, that's not going to work, that. It's not going to work. And then there's other ones you'll go, oh yeah, all day. That's a character that'll do it. And there's some you'll do and go, don't think people will be into this and it'll do really well. I look back at me early, like Brendan Rodgers stuff. He sounds Scottish. And then, sort of off, goodness gracious me. Doesn't sound like Brendan Rodgers, that. But like anything, it's got to start somewhere. And with me, I'll put it on there early on. And you know, people might go. I'll always gauge reaction a little bit to a new character, and you might be like, oh, I need a bit of work, that or such and such. But there's some characters who I'll never be amazing at, but I'll still do them because there's too much comedy with them. There's too much you can do with them. Do you get what I mean? Like Solskjaer, I don't think my Solskjaer was great, but I stuck with it just because there was so much comedy. You could get it all at the wheel, like, you know what I mean?
Who were the first one that you nailed it, like, you know, when you started off?
First ones, so would have been, I was about 15. Do you know what this first kind of happened, right? I went on a holiday years ago with like my family, and a few like my cousins and that, because I'd done a couple of impressions messing about, like Michael Owen come on the telly, and I just started doing Michael Owen, and then Steven Gerrard come on, and he was like, oh my god, they're good then. And then on that holiday, it was just me in Lineker's bar, just going round to everyone doing impressions of these people. Like my cousin was like, listen to him, to Gerrard Owen, he's getting loads of bevies, it was great, go on. But it kind of become like a thing as well, in the boozers in Kenny, where like people I was known as the kid who could do I'd say the kid because I was only young. I don't know what I was doing in the pub then, like. But they'd be like, oh, there's that lad who does them, and I'd be talking to a group, they just literally just grab me and go, yeah, go and talk to them. I'd take a tenner out and be out till 4 in the morning, everyone buying you a bevy. But yeah, so the first couple of characters, I'd say Michael Owen, Gerrard, Carragher, I think. Didn't do anyone else. I think I'd done Beckham, but he was like England captain and he was massive then. Peter Crouch, you know. Do you know that's a mad one, that? The first video I done, I don't think I've done him since. Peter Crouch did it at the time, yeah. But yeah, because I remember when I first spoke to Carragher and he was like, oh, the Crouchy's the best one. Crouchy's the best one. I can't even remember doing it.
I was going to ask that, you know, you say you obviously good mate to him now. What was that like when you first, not just Carragher, but anyone, when you've done an impression on them and you meet them, what's that like?
99% of the time sound like, you know, Steve Bruce, oh, what a nice fella he is. I actually got invited to Villa when he was Villa manager. He done like this thing, it was like an in-house thing, where me and him would take the session. So I was dressed as Bruce with the real Steve Bruce. Wow. He was brilliant, mate. Honestly, he was, I take the side of Steve Bruce, I do, but he knows that and he's great about it, there's no problem with it. And he was great. Harry Redknapp, brilliant. Carragher, pretty much everyone that I've met, like Rafa, loved Rafa. Such a nice guy.
He's alright with you?
Oh, he was brilliant, mate.
Really?
This was before Agent Rafa. Probably got a dartboard with me. But I think he was an agent. I think he was doing an Agent Rafa job. Honestly,
I was doubting it at the start, but we did the sport. I was saying, like, this is getting to a point where there's no other explanation.
It got to like, did he play Hull or something in the cup? Didn't he? He had like a right back, left back, right back. That runs on a front on his own, and I went, he's taking my gig here. This is Agent Rafa, you know what I mean? But,
and he sold the best left back as well. He had like,
wait, they were 2-0 down away and he took the striker off. Crystal Palace, come on lad, get off.
Listen, I love Rafa, right, but he made some bafflers at Liverpool as well. Top, brilliant manager, but I think the game's just evolved. I say the same about Mourinho.
Yeah, you say that as well, don't you?
Yeah,
it's a different game.
Different game.
There's that YouTube video, isn't there, where we're getting beat and he brings Torres off, and there's a video goes on to Gerrard, and Gerrard goes,
what's going on there? Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
People conveniently forget that back end of Rafa at Liverpool.
Oh, it was
when
bad.
When he was on his way out, it was bad.
I was at Wigan away when we got beat, I think. Wigan away it was like, fuck.
But you remember the Athens final? And he had Bellamy and Crouch on the bench. Maldini, no one could deal with Crouch, right? You go to that season, no one ever really talks about it, right? But Liverpool should have had another European Cup. They could have won 2 or 3 under Rafa, because he was tactically unbelievable. But when it comes to those decisions, he had Dirk Kuyt up front on his own, against, like, I think they were all in the 40s, at the back from Milan. Crouch, no one could deal with him. Bellamy, I remember going, he's lost us this, Rafa. As, look, you can slate him, he got Istanbul, he did a great job, but he had them moments in him, Rafa, didn't he? You know, those little baffling.
When you talk about ego, like, I'm not sure he might not have an ego as a person, but I think as a manager, he's definitely got that thing of, you just want to tell me what to do, I'm doing, like, the opposite, or what I think is the right thing.
Yeah.
But, like, that Rafa, mate, I even seen the one that you've done about he's ringing Lampard. Like, again, like you say, if someone's giving you that much kind of ammunition, it's hard not to. What I think you nailed really well, though, it's not just the, it's like in fact, you tell me then, it seems to be the voice, but it's also like the mannerisms. I mean, what goes into the impression?
That's more important, that's more important, that's massive for me, because I think that what you'll find, this isn't having a dig at anyone, or because there's a few brilliant impressionists on the scene now, really good. It's like, impressionists are back on the market now, which is great, because it kind of died at death a few years ago, I think, a little bit. But yeah, I think that when a lot of impressionists will do 10 seconds of a character, and that's, 10 seconds of a character, great or whatever, but realistically, if you want to, for me, I'd rather stand there as a minute and a half, 2 minutes as a character, and kind of nail it. So all the little details, all the small things and that, I've got more pride in that than anything. So if someone goes, oh my God, he that's exactly what he does, that little glint, that to me is more important than the voice, seriously. The voice, obviously, you want to sound like the person, that's a big thing, but when someone says, oh, that little tick, I think one of the first ones was Harry Redknapp, because I remember doing Harry Redknapp, and what a fella he is, by the way, and Jamie, you think you can meet a nicer family, he's another one who was great, and I said a tax joke as well, right in front of him when I was on, and he was laughing his head, he was great, you know what I mean, you know it's just a joke, but but Redknapp, because he had that it's absolutely true, that's it. So before you'd even speak, when you're doing a stage show, if the audience were laughing, and I was like, hang on a minute, I've got to do more of this now with my characters. So Gerrard, obviously, before Gerrard would speak, he'd be like,
it's the eye.
yeah, of course, look, it's important, we work hard, we've got to do our job. I've been to the greatest league in the world, Scottish League 4, some very difficult games every 6 months against Celtic, but it's been hard. Landed on my feet there, to be fair, but it's even like the of course. Yeah. I know it gets on people's nerves.
That's what I was going to say. I remember you done one and you went, and you put your intro went on for about 10 seconds.
Christmas dinner one week where he went on for ages. So funny.
So my stepson, he's 14, and he's in the next room, and he's like, shut up now, because every 5 minutes, it's just literally non-stop. But what you find is it's become it's almost like he stopped doing it, Gerrard. He stopped doing it.
Have you ever met Gerrard over that?
Yeah.
What's he been like with
it? He's alright, quiet lad, isn't he? You know what I mean? But yeah, he's alright.
Didn't take it as well as the other ones.
Listen, I always say the same thing. There's some people you get on with, whether it's your window cleaner, your neighbours, and there's some people you don't. It doesn't matter who they are or whatever. But the lad is a brilliant player, and I think he's going to be a brilliant manager as well. And it's great for me, because the more he's in the spotlight, that's...
what's the process of... Sorry, sorry to cut you off, but what's the process of, like... So you see someone, you think, right, he's got everything that can bring it. What's the process of, like, getting to the point where you can do it?
So sometimes, right, it's very quick. So sometimes, like, you can see a character coming. It's like the Norwich fella, Daniel Farke, right? So he wasn't, because Norwich are not a massive club or anything, but I'd never heard him speak, right? And I'd done a gig for Norwich. The director of Norwich, a fella called Stuart Webber, lovely fella, but I've done loads of work for him. A great club then, by the way, such a great club. And I'd never met the manager, Farke. This is when he'd been promoted to the Prem, and they were playing Liverpool the next week. So I went down to Norwich to do this gig for the players and the manager, and he sat next to me, so I was next to him. And I'm just like, hiya mate, and he was like, yes of course, it's great to have you here, yes, it's great. And I just went, and right there, so Stuart Webber, right, is looking at me going, and I'm going, and he went, you'll be doing him next week. And I went, oh my god. It was like a Bond, like, you know, like a Bond villain. He was like, yes of course, it's a great example, and it's a great, it's quite forgettable. But he was so, I was like, this is not a normal conversation. I was going out, like, how are the kids? Yes, they're great, we went to school today, it was great, and everyone was happy. I was just like, oh my god. And then, obviously, he evolved that character, and he became quite a popular character, so that was quite quick, because it's not a difficult one, really. Just other characters, some you can't do anything with them. Like Brendan Rodgers was a dream. When I first seen him, I just went, wow. Because remember his first press conference for Liverpool? I just went, oh, they're going to have some fun with this. Because he was just like quoting Shankly, and he was very proud to be here. Very proud, beautiful human being. Some of the things he was saying, you know what I mean?
But it was the envelope thing.
Yeah,
you must have just been like, this is the fucking lottery for me.
Well, he done that documentary, which I feel a bit sorry for him actually. He got thrown in the deep end there, didn't he? He must have said to him, welcome Brendan. And then when he had the portrait in his house of himself,
oh god, I know.
That was brilliant.
Little tiny one of his kids at school and a big massive one of it behind the couch.
when he was saying to Sterling he's going steady as well, to Sterling and all that. He was a great one, that you've done Rodgers, like.
Yeah, but again, it's the, you know, I'm waiting for him to, he's at Leicester now, you can't really do anything with him. So it's like, you want him to get a bigger job. If he got like the Man U job or like Chelsea or something, you could go to town on it. But you find that when those kind of characters are at like mid-table, don't get me wrong, he's done a great job with Leicester, but you can't really use him that much. Do you know what I mean? Certain characters where you're like, oh, I can't use him now. Or they'll leave. Like, you know, I did Rafa, he got off for like 5 years, then come back. Trying to think of others. There's other characters, like Lampard. He's like a newish one, don't get me wrong, but the funny thing with Lampard is, I don't know if you've seen the seriousness and the laughter. So I'm just trying to combine, because it's one of the hardest things to do. Because you write a little script, you've got a minute and a half, and it's the pace of it. So it's like, you know, dead serious and then dead fast, dead serious, dead fast. Oh, it's such a tough one. But that's the challenge of it. That's what's boss about it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you'll get, as I was saying before, you've always got a story. So whether in football, it's like a soap opera, innit? You know what I mean? Whereas say like you did boxers, you can use that impression once a year. Say like you do, even like some of the lads do like great Conor McGregor impressions, or it's Tyson Fury. You can only do a video every now and then, but you know, say for instance, I'll use Steve Bruce, sacked by Newcastle, you can do a vid. You know, hired by West Brom, you can do a vid. They beat Liverpool, you can do a vid. You can constantly do videos.
Because you're so immersed in football as well, it's like,
mate, don't miss a thing. It's impossible. It's impossible, because I get up in the morning, Talk Sports on, you know, then Sky Sports News is on, and then it's just an obsession, seriously. And sometimes, like, I have to say to myself, listen, talk to the kids today.
Like, Dad.
Say a minute and just go. But I've become so immersed in it. Do you know what I mean? It does become an obsession, to be fair.
How was you with like the lockdown, like when it sort of went away for a bit with all the COVID stuff?
Do you know what? Lockdown, and I know it affected a lot of people, and I get that. It had a different effect with me, to be honest with you. It had a different effect with me, more so because I found that like I was more creative. I was going out running. I was in the park. I lost loads of weight going on runs around the park and that. And obviously I built my studio. So before COVID, I was going out filming in different locations, and it can be quite difficult if you've got like a breaking news story. And I'm saying to a couple of the lads that I work with, listen, can we get out and film? I'm in work, or you know, it's pissing down, or the weather or whatever. So when we've got like a big spare room in the house, and I turned it into a little studio. It was a game changer for me, that, massively. So it kind of had a lot of bonuses for me in that respect, you know what I mean? But I found myself working harder at the Impressions, being more creative because I had more time on my hands. Because you're not going away, you're not doing any gigs, you know, you're not even doing the school run, the kids were off. There was nothing to do. I found we were more active. As good. Like, even with the kids going on big walks and stuff like that.
It's definitely like that point to breathe, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? When, like, you know, you're living like a fast-paced sort of work and this and this, and then suddenly you've got a minute to like sit on the couch and be like, you know,
there is bonuses, isn't there? There definitely is.
So great. I feel so guilty that I didn't. I was just so pissed off with the situation. I don't feel like I took advantage of it, me. So it's great to hear that you did.
Yeah, but you know what it might be, though, and as well, you've got to think about where you are in terms of what you're doing. Now, I'm not sure when you lads started the podcast and stuff, but it might have been inconvenient for you at the time. So it depends where you are.
Yeah,
if you're
100%.
I know a lad who opens a cafe right on. Honestly, he opens a cafe, and honestly, it's absolutely smashed it. And then lockdown come in, he lost absolutely everything, money. They got no support, and it's like, it's all about timing. Do you know what I mean? So you were probably like buzzing with creativity. I want to do this, I want to do that. There's no worse pain than that. No. If I've got an idea in my head and I've got and I want to be creative and I can't do it.
I was just pissed off with the world, mate, for like fucking 2 years.
Yeah.
Just because of all my speaking gigs. It wasn't even the podcast, because the podcast was just a hobby, but the speaking gigs just had such an impact on the rest of my life.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm fed up.
How much do you enjoy the speaking, mate?
Love it, mate. I was down in London Reading last night, doing one.
Oh, was you?
Yeah. Got to train up this morning, But it's brilliant, mate. You know, only a couple hundred people, big IT firm, standing ovation. I just feel like you said, the best job in the world.
Fantastic, mate,
absolutely love it. So it's getting back on track now and stuff, and so yeah, love it.
Do you two, like, interviewing both of you, but do you appreciate like the...
It's not about him.
I know, yeah. Do you know, like, obviously with COVID and all that, and everyone was on Zoom and stuff, do you appreciate the person-to-person contact again? Or even more, so to speak?
Yeah, the Zoom thing didn't work for me.
No.
I find that, do you know what, I find that just really awkward. I was saying to you lads before about like phones and that, weren't I? I'm not that savvy with stuff like that. And I found the Zoom thing, because I had loads of gigs on Zoom. The gigs were sound, don't get me wrong, but when you're having a chat or a meeting with someone over like a little business thing that's going on, I just found that really awkward, found it difficult really, and didn't work for me, so I couldn't wait to, you know, go and have a coffee with someone, or, you know, I think if we were doing the podcast on a Zoom, don't get me wrong, we'd have had a laugh, but it just wouldn't have been the same. I think when you're with people, you
100%. We've had opportunities to do with people, and I'm like, we'll just wait until we can get you in the studio face to face, because
spot on.
It's human contact, isn't it? It's like body language, eye contact, stuff that people are now, most people, younger people can't do. They can't hold eye contact. They can't. You know, they hate the idea of being around people.
It's a different world, isn't it? It's a totally different world. When it comes to, I think we were talking before, weren't we, about like the phones and.
I was going to say, if we can just leave the impressions for a minute and just talk on the phone, because I found it really interesting to know that you don't kind of bother much with your phone, which I think is really refreshing to know on one hand, and also a bit of a surprise, I thought, because given you have got such a big presence on you know, YouTube, you've got about 150,000 subscribers, I think, haven't you, on YouTube? It's,
you know what, and I should know that.
It's huge. It's huge. You're a massive presence on, you know, obviously the Twitter and Insta. But you're someone who doesn't spend a lot of time on your phone, if you don't mind just touching on that.
I think there's a problem, mate. I think there's a massive problem, and I know it probably does sound quite contradictory, because obviously what I do is my idea is not like, listen, people shouldn't be on the phones. We all need a phone. In the world that we're in now, if you don't have a phone, how could you connect? You wouldn't be able to connect with no one. Everyone's got one. So to be a part of this world, everyone's got to have a phone. But I've just found it like a massive... I've never personally had the problem myself, but I had a little moment, I think maybe 6 or 7 years ago, where I found I'm on my phone quite a bit. I'm constantly grabbing my phone, and I just feel like it's like an addiction and quite a problem, really. Do you know what I mean? Touching on the fact that my daughter, I won't give her a phone. Most of her friends in school have got one. She's nearly 10, my daughter, and on the spot, a lot of people probably won't give the kids a phone at that age. But I don't think I want to give her a phone for a long time. But there's a pressure, because it's like, they're all in little WhatsApp groups and they're all doing different things. And I'm like, no, it's an addiction. And with me, I've just found that, like, I can go and do what I love. I can go and do my content. I can film it. I can put it online. But when it comes to like going on the phone, and I don't have an interest in being on my phone. I really don't. And most of the time with my phone, I'll probably have my phone with me throughout the day. I reckon about 45 minutes of the day. Seriously, it's nowhere near me. If anyone wants to ring me, I can hear the phone. It's in the kitchen on charge, or my daughter will be playing on she plays Roblox on the phone. She's constantly she's got an iPad, my daughter. So for the sake she can play that game, basically. But if the battery goes or whatever, she'll have the phone. And she can have it for whatever. If anyone needs me, they can just ring me missus's phone or whatever, but I'm never on it. I just think there's a real problem.
No.
Oh, I agree.
Real problem. And I don't mean that like, listen, obviously, I just think it's moderation. You go onto social media, or you go onto Instagram, you've got to think about like the amount of time that's probably lost going on there. You know yourself, like if the game's on, if Liverpool are on or whatever, and you're watching the game, Liverpool, Everton, whoever, people are probably seeing what people are saying on Twitter more than watching the match.
Yeah.
Actually watching the game. You go to the match, people are in the corner taking photos and someone's taking the corner. You go to concerts, me and my girl went to see Celine Dion. Oh god, she was amazing, by the way. Not ashamed to admit it. Wow, I listened to a CD. And my wife filmed the concert, and I said, "You've just missed the concert." And she went, "But I can watch it again." I was going, why didn't you just watch it and just remember it? Do you know what I mean? I know, listen, a lot of people won't agree, and there probably is moderation, but I think for me it's just become such a distractor. Sometimes I'll go for a coffee with a friend and they're just like, yeah. And it's like, it's just moderation for me. Do you know what I mean? Moderation. But I know what you're saying, it's contradictive for me, because obviously I'm on social media and that's what I do. I put videos online. But I just feel like, this is just me personally, I wouldn't be saying it to anyone else, to not do it. If people want to go on the phone, it makes them happy. It is what it is, you know what I mean? But I've just found that like it seems to become more and more like an addiction.
And to be honest, mate, you're such a creative person as well. No way would you be as creative if you're spending 6-7 hours a day on your phone. It just wouldn't happen. No, you wouldn't have the time, would you? You just wouldn't have the time. So, you'll laugh, but I write my scripts on paper. I write my scripts with a pen and paper. You know what I mean? It's proper
almost like
school.
You feel like you've been born. But here's me saying that. But without the social, I wouldn't have a job, a career. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it's not me saying this is bad, because it can be a really good place. But it's not even about really social media. It's just about like the device, like the phone. It's
the virtual world.
Constantly,
You just lose track, don't you? You just. Like how people watch me if I'm in a train station, or you're just looking around. And there was a family of about 7. They had about 5 kids. I don't think they spoke a word to each other. The mum and dad going, and the kids were going, and it was like, oh my
to the point, mate, if there's a fella sitting there, just maybe eating a bacon butty or something, cup of tea, and he's just sitting there, he looks weird because he's not on his phone.
He's not immersed in his phone.
It looks,
he wouldn't know where to look.
No?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Do you worry about like the negativity? I was saying, you get sometimes people sort of giving you a bit of grief or whatever, and you don't see it. Do you worry about your kids sort of getting on the phone and seeing it?
I have to tell my wife and my mum, because I think me mum's like, I think she's like my number one fan, me mum, do you know what I mean? And like, it's funny because like you'll get in the cab and go, "How'd your mum in last week?" And she was like telling me about it and all that. My mum's like, she's just the best, and we all, she's lovely. She's just a nice person, and I think she got a bit upset about it. Obviously, we had that thing at that time, and there was a couple of things that went on, and I said, "Mum, you need to stop going on now." Do you know what I mean? Because it doesn't bother me, and I don't do it. And I found that even like mates of mine were getting a bit upset. I think one of my mates, fair play to him, started having a bit of a barney on Twitter with a mate of his who was giving me grief. Because he was like, "You're talking about me, mate?" Because he got personal, this lad, personal. I've got to switch off from that. There's people I know, and who I've come across, people from like my past who have been giving me grief like online, and it's weird that, someone maybe you've been to school with, or someone that you just know through a mutual friend, and that information gets passed on. I don't see it, but I'm like, you don't need to tell me. I don't need to know that. I just don't need to know it. Do you know what I mean? Because it's, as I say before, I try not to take it too personal, because I think social media it's fake.
Yeah.
But then, as you say there, you know, it hasn't, me stepson, it's done him a favour, to be honest with you. I think, like, he, you know, gets a little bit of attention because of it in a positive way. But I'd be gutted if it has an effect. But the way the world's going, you know, I've seen it even with, like, people who involved in football and involved in, like, music or whatever, that families do get brought into stuff, and it's like, that's where it seems to be going. So that's why, probably one of the main reasons that I don't really bother, but, you know, going online and seeing what people are saying. And you've got to detach yourself a bit, as we were saying before. You've got to look at it as like a job, and it's great. You know what, if some of the messages that you get, because I'll go on, like, say you've got, like, messages on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and some of the messages are like really, really nice, you know what I mean? Someone will go, like, I've been suffering with my mental health and your vids have really helped me. Oh mate, that is like one of the nicest things you'll ever get. There's a real positivity as well. You get some really nice people. But I think what's happened with the world, it's become a lot angrier, and you touched on it before, that there's no repercussions now. No. So I mean, as if Twitter are going to stop people giving grief, because Twitter wouldn't work. Basically, Twitter isn't even like it's almost like a ranting machine, isn't it? Where people just go on and rant.
Online argument, I call it.
You see fellas though, and women in the 50s and 60s, they've got grandkids, they're probably the loveliest people you'll ever meet. They're on social media calling people all kinds. It's like, it's almost become normal now to do that. You know what I mean?
I think with your job though as well, mate, it's such a great job in the sense that, you know, the end goal is to make people feel happy.
Oh yeah.
To make people smile.
It's lovely,
make
mate.
people laugh.
Do you know one of the best things, mate, I'll ever say, I went for a run how long ago? Maybe a couple of months ago, whatever, and there was a lad with his dad. His dad was on a bike and he was going for a run. The lad was only about 12, 13. And he ran over and he actually gave me a hug, the kid.
Did he?
He gave me, I've never experienced anything like it in my life. And his dad was going, mate, he loves your stuff. And I was like, do you know what I mean? How amazing is that? And honest to God, I was smiling for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I took his dad's number and said, just look, tell him to give me a bell or whatever. It was such a lovely moment. And, you know, you'll get people coming up and going, oh, mate, your vids, you know, they've you know, whether it's someone who just likes your vids and... But it's such a nice thing. It's such a lovely thing, that. And there is such a, as I say before, it's all right saying, like, oh, you know, you get loads of... I think because social media's become... You feel like it's become 80% negative, a little bit. So you kind of allude to that, but you can't forget, you know...
All the love and support.
Oh, there's a lot of love. There's a lot of love, honestly.
What's been... Sorry, Joe.
No, go on.
What's been like... Because I'm guessing, what type of gigs are you doing? Are you doing anything from... Because you're doing, obviously, big... Like, you've done big ones, like... Massive, but what's a kind of...
Do you know what? It's a mix, to be honest with you. A lot of my work's private, so a lot of your work you'll get booked. I've been quite lucky in the respect that you'll get booked. Like, I'm doing the Carabao Cup final, so I'm doing like that's like I'm doing the Carabao Cup final, which is like I think it's all like the players, friends, and families, and all that, which is a good gig. I've done it before.
For Liverpool, like
for Liverpool, made up when we got the final. Yeah, so not for the club, for the EFL.
Right, okay.
So you get loads of work with them. So being a big footy fan, you know, you'll do different gigs for them, the Premier League as well, stuff for the Premier League. I'm doing the Overlap live as well with Carragher. Yeah, that's... What date are we on? Mate, what date will this be on?
The Overlap's don't know, mate, next couple of weeks.
Early Feb, we're in.
Yeah, this is Liverpool got before now yesterday. Yeah, but they're like amazing gigs. But then the week after you'll be doing a gig like maybe, I'm just trying to think of one that I've done, like for Selco, you know, like a brand or something where they'll go, look, we've got this in. It's all private. Because obviously I had conversations about going and doing like a little tour, because I've been busy. It's like, well, you know, maybe if things get a bit quiet on that front, we'll try and maybe come up with a little tour, but it'd be mad doing that now. Yeah. Because there's constant work, do you know what I mean? And with footy, the events around football are just so many. So I've probably worked at about 12 Premier League clubs.
What, to the players?
Most of the time, yeah. So you'll get booked for like a Christmas party. This is another blessing. Most of the players, or most players I've met, have said, oh, your vids are in our WhatsApp group, or your vids are in. I've had that from like Liverpool players, I've had it from Everton players, I've had it from, and you're like, wow. You'll meet like, it's like for instance, let me think. Who was it? It's like Shearer. So you meet like someone like Shearer and he's like, I've been watching your vids for years. And you're going,
how, yeah.
Shearer, Alan Shearer, you know, when you still get that like, wow, as I was saying, because I'm such a big football fan. You can't believe that even now when someone goes, oh yeah, you know, we want your vids, or he's like, when you get booked for an event and it's like, oh, the chairman wants them because the chairman likes one, you go, that's the power of social media. So, you know, they're me saying like, stay off your phones, don't go on social media. But it's unbelievable the stuff that you get to do. You know, I had a moment, where a lot of my stuff was centred around Liverpool Football Club. So for the first, maybe, I was only really doing characters related to Liverpool, as we touched on before. But I kind of made like a little decision to kind of step away from Liverpool, because I was doing like match days with them. I was doing like online content with them. I was never off LFC TV. It was like, if I want to do something, I've got to get away. And I noticed most people watching the vids were like Liverpool fans. It was all based around Liverpool. So I had to make a decision and go, okay, you know, maybe I need to do something a little bit different, and maybe I need to start, you know, trying to venture out a little bit, and that was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah, because your clientele now, mate, it's fucking, like you say, massive.
I think the fact you're still in a niche as well, aren't you? Saying there's obviously great impressionists and stuff, but like your world is very insular. There's not many of you who can do it very well. Do you know what I mean? So you've got this boss little sort of circuit, and I guess the fact that a lot of it's private gigs is a good thing as well, because you know, you're all over social media, your own one. But I guess getting in like a closed room, do you know what I mean, and just being able to do what you do, it's a bit of a blessing.
It's different as well. Like, you know, when you're doing your stands up and that, it's very different. You know, I really enjoy it now. Early on I was kind of like, you know, I enjoyed it, but you know, you had the nerves and you had a lot going on with it. Whereas now, like, I really appreciate that. Really appreciate that kind of like just being able to perform in front of like a crowd. And I get the same buzz from like 50 people to like whether it was a couple of thousand people. I mean, I don't know if you feel like that, and but I find that like it doesn't really matter. I could go in front of a couple of people and do it and still get that same kind of buzz, you know what I mean? But
what's been the best gig you've done?
Oh, it's hard, that's hard, mate.
Because I just, maybe not the best gig, and then I think for example, the reason I asked this question, because there was a moment for me when I done a speaking gig for Nike over in China. Wow. They flew me out to Shanghai, and that was a moment I thought, fucking hell, I feel like fucking David Beckham or something here. Do you know what I mean? I felt like wow, and the talk went really well over in. It was amazing. Was there a gig where you're like, wow, this company, it could be like just because the size of the company, or it could be the club, it could be something, and you're like, wow.
You'd have a couple. I think that I kind of knew that things were going well a little bit off the back of a couple of gigs, because I think I mentioned like the Premier League and stuff like that. So you were getting a gig, and when I done the Premier League one, it was like a Legends event where it was like just all the Premier League legends, Gerrard, Lampard, Shearer, Andy Cole, Letitia. It was just like, it was a massive gig for me. And then the Premier League kept in touch and were like, oh listen, you want to do this gig in Dubai, or do you want to go and do this gig? And you're like, do you know what I mean? So it's more like those gigs for me, because you get opportunities, doors, you get, as you know yourself, someone sees you at them events and goes, oh, can we book you? A lot of like former players end up booking you for their like foundation events and different stuff, and it's like, in terms of like the best gig, it's hard, because like, it's like, I've got, do you know, one of my first gigs, and I mentioned it before, was the Liverpool Players Christmas party. Now that was surreal at the time to me, because I was a Liverpool fan. I was going home and away. I was like absolutely obsessed with Liverpool at the time, and it was the players and me. Do you know what I mean? Just the players and me, and I ended up out with them. I ended up out with Couch, Agger, funny lad, Kite, Agger, Jay Spearing. Oh, what a nice lad. You have to get him on. He's a lovely lad. Has he been on, Jay Spearing?
No, it's a great show.
He'd be a great guest, you know. Lovely lad. And Degan, remember the right back? Oh, and Nabil El-Zar. yeah. I think he moved more on that night than he did in the Liverpool. But no, but they were brilliant that night. Even to be fair to him, Gerrard, Carragher, Pepe Reina, Alonso. It was like, Liverpool played Blackburn on the Saturday. I think this was on like a Wednesday or a Thursday, the players' party. And I went to game, Ewood Park and that. And then I only got the call to do that like 2 days before it. And they were like, look, I think it was someone to do with Carragher had rang up, like a liaison officer for the club. Fella called Norman Gard, it was. Oh, he's passed away now, lovely fella, like a liaison officer. And he got in touch with me and said, look, the lads have asked if you'll come and do the players' party.
Wow.
I just went, oh my God. And it was I didn't know what I was doing. I just went up and I was doing like a team talk as Rafa. I was like, they were looking at me going. I just remember Lucas laughing his head off. Remember Lucas? And then just having a bevy with them. They had the karaoke. Like Robbie Keane and Rainer on the karaoke. Oh, it was just...
The memories you've got of that,
yeah,
mate.
it's like getting to look behind the curtain, innit? You know, as a fan. You watch them, but you think like, no, that's their world. Do you know what I mean?
Get on this, though. Get on this. So I took one of them cameras with me, you know, those thing you want, throwaway camera.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, most people that have phones with me. Here's me going. Skittles. Oh, it was brilliant. The Balti was brilliant. But... no, I'd say that because it was so like, wow, this is like a dream, this. Like something out of a dream.
What am I on for time, George?
I think we're alright, mate, yeah, but...
I've got like millions of questions, sorry. Who's been like, I know maybe we've mentioned before and everyone who listens to the pod knows like how much I love him, but like maybe yourself, Carragher, for me, he's my ultimate like hero and luckily enough to become a good mate with him. Yeah. Even now, I'm still like, fucking hell, like it's Carragher. Who have you met along the way where you've been like, fucking hell?
Struggle with Gerrard because there's an aura. You said it about Harry Kane before. There was an aura with him, like an aura. You know, when someone walks into a room and you go, you know, you just
big
know
time.
that is like... Carragher made me at ease. I still struggle a bit with Carragher because you don't forget. It doesn't matter whether you've worked with them or you've done stuff with them. You don't forget it's Jamie Carragher. Yeah. You just don't forget. If you're, as I am a big Liverpool fan, he puts you at ease because obviously he's such a great lad. People bump into him on the streets in Bootle, don't they? And he's just a normal fella. And I think I've struggled a bit with a few people like that, to be fair. But most of them have been great. Most of them have been really sound. But yeah, I'd say more so Shearer was a big one as well. But then he's like, oh, I've been watching your stuff. What's going on here? You know what I mean?
They ruin your eyes.
Yeah, with him. Who else was there? I'm trying to think if there was anyone else. Torres.
Yeah, I had struggle with that.
Torres, and what a lovely lad he was, mate. Like,
really, yeah.
I'd say them Spanish lads like Alonso and because he ended up doing a thing for Adidas with Reina, Alonso and Torres. Yeah. I think there was someone else, I can't remember who it was, but what, like, you wouldn't meet three nice lads, so down to earth, so respectful, the way they were speaking to like the staff, and just like, wow.
The only person to ever break my heart is
Yeah,
that, when he got off.
He was one,
I was in a bad way then, you know.
Yeah.
I had to have a word with myself. I vowed to never ever get that invested into football that I was actually like gutted because I was fucking suicidal.
That's why my barriers were up with Suarez. Like when Suarez left, I was all right with it. I just took him for what he was. Boss player, loved it.
Yeah.
But like with Torres, I was so invested.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It was like he was just. I mean, that was the end of him, wasn't it? I think Carragher said, actually, he said in Spain, and he knew he wasn't the same player. Torres, he said, he was like happy he'd gone. And then Suarez come in a week later.
He's so lucky, like that.
People go on, say Suarez over Torres, but I find that hard, mate, because I just think Torres was unplayable.
When he came that year or 18 months or whatever it was, he actually was unplayable. Like,
not only that though, he made Stevie, like them two together were just like Stevie.
You know, I don't think Torres won anything with Liverpool. No. It's just
criminal,
right,
isn't it?
As you said there, when you had Gerrard just behind him in that 10, and oh my, Gerrard'd get it, he'd know where he was. But anyone would say that about Gerrard. Owen would say it, Suarez would say it. You know, he's a dream to play with, isn't he?
That day he left, though, mate.
Ricky Lambert would say it.
Tell you what, talk about winning the lottery.
Do you have any of the players who you've met who are like, maybe you became friends with and they're like, oh lad, do one for him for me, and they're like, oh no, it's like what? Because I just think you become, you'd have like, I don't know, someone going, oh lad, fucking do me one of them, I'm sitting with him now, do one for me. Have you met, like, became
this is his way
friends?
of getting your number, so when he's in the boozer he can go,
I know, yeah.
Dad and do it with us, lad.
No, I never fucking best you do.
He doesn't. Only 3 times.
Yeah, I was going to say.
No, I could just imagine people be like, you know, especially players, because, you know, if you're going into the clubs and you're ripping, and like, I can just imagine what lads are like, that banter, they're like, come on.
Do you know what? See, the thing is with me, you always keep that distance, don't you? You know, that like professional distance. Even you were saying there, I was saying before about Carrot, like, you know, he's great lad or whatever, do you know what I mean? And you'll see them at a distance, but you respect your boundaries, don't you?
Yeah.
I'd never... There's a couple of players who I've got to know. I'd never say it, but you get to know them, but I won't test them for anything. Do you know what I mean? And you just keep that little bit of a distance. You'll get a little text off them every now and then saying, oh, can you do this vid or whatever, and you can keep that favour in mind then and go, yo, never ask for tickets. Never ask for tickets, no, off anyone. I don't really go to match, no. I don't really go. No, I don't go. I used to go home and away with Liverpool, but just through the years, listen, I still
bang into
love the club.
I can see it as soon as footy gets mentioned. There's just
I was going to say
energy.
We should be get you on a sportscast one week.
Yeah.
Oh, listen,
that's just about the week, because we can talk about that week.
Yeah. So you have one camera on you then.
To finish up a little bit, mate, what's like most requested person you get, or what brings you the most joy of doing?
Do you know what the first question, the most requested one would be Gerrard, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. I enjoy it. I always enjoy my newest character. I always love it when there's a character who you're like, oh, I'm not that good at him, and someone goes, oh, do him, and you're like, oh, that character's going quite well. That's a tough one for me, that, to be fair, because I love doing them all. It's hard, you know what I mean? The most enjoyable ones, I think Rooney.
Oh, mate, I'm made you said that. You know why?
Do you know why? It just writes itself.
Yeah.
As we were saying, it just... when he goes to Everton, that just make it happen.
What do you call him? Moshiri? Moshi?
Moshiri? It's the Moshiri. But you can't... A lot of that was like improvised, because it's just like... It's just... You know, when you're into your footy and you kind of know the stuff and that, but as I say, it depends where you go. When Gerrard was at Rangers, like Scotland, mate, honestly, like everyone would know you. You go to Scotland, get off the train, the guards would know you. Because they were, we say Liverpool, it's just on par, really. Yeah. They are. You just cannot go anywhere without football being mentioned. The rivalry between them two. That's why I've kind of got into the Scottish footy, because I've ended up like doing loads of work for like Hibernian and Dundee and St Mirren, number 1 team. Probably get relegated. But yeah, I've been. That's how I've got into it, because you invest, because they're such lovely people. Yeah, they're passionate about the teams, and like. I get in the car now in like Scotland, and he'll go, oh, I'm an Airdrie fan. I'll go, Tingo's stuck over there, right? Oh yeah, Ronnie Pickering up front now, Tingo.
My favourite's Rafa, mate. What you do, mate, Rafa's my favourite impression.
But again, with Rafa, it's the subtleties, isn't it? It's like it's like that little like. You got to say about this one again. You can see, okay, that's really good. For the crew, it's those little things.
How you can just go like that, man, into it? It's incredible talent.
I love that, mate. And when you do it live, it kind of teaches you, because you just flick. Because it's like comedy. If you go and do comedy, I've always said that Impressionism is probably the toughest part of comedy to do live, because you can fall flat, and if a voice doesn't come out right, don't forget, if you've got like a little bit of nerves, the voice won't sound the same. Yeah. So it's not like you can turn it, you know, the way I can do a video and I can go, I'll do that again, you're live. One chance, boom, you've got to do it. With comedy, it's different, do you know what I mean? Because you kind of like, you're almost in a little bit of a flow, you're being yourself, and it's almost like you can kind of get back with your comedy. But with impressions, if you start off bad, your gig's gone. If your first couple of characters don't get a reaction, you're like, I've got to do another like 25 of these now. You're like, you know. But it can be difficult live, doing impressions live. you don't really see many Impressionists on the circuit. That's probably why you end up getting quite a bit of work, really. Not many others doing it. And because of, as we know, with football, most sportsmen they're about football. You know what I mean? So
I think you've got it, as you rightly said before, though, you've always got narrative, haven't you? You've always got something that happened yesterday, where, you know, as you say with the McGregor stuff, it's usually the same script, isn't it? It's like it's all press conference or whatever it may be, but you know, something could happen today and you've then got, right, I've got a gig now in 2 days, bang, you know, I'm going to take that into there. So
exactly, you've got to change your script as well quite a lot. You know, when we had COVID, I had to rewrite the script because I looked at it and went, hang on a minute, he's managing them. He's left, he retired 6 years ago. So you're looking at it and you've got to change it, but that's great as well. The same, because it freshens it up and you're doing, like, obviously it just changes the angle quite a lot. And that's why constantly, as you say, you can wake up on a Wednesday, Thursday morning, you've got nothing planned, and then you'll just see, such and such has been announced as the new manager of, and you're like, right, I've got to write a script on that, I'll go and do a video. You know, so that's kind of how it's worked with that, but it is the dream job because you are just doing what you love, talking about football and doing impressions, you know what I mean?
So super talented, mate.
You are, mate. I think you are self-depreciating probably in how talented you are.
I really appreciate it. It's like I say, it's one of them. You always feel uncomfortable getting praise. I think we're all the same, you know. But it's like you don't get tired of it. It's a lovely thing to see what it can do, and you know, as I was saying to you lads before, when people are saying that it actually helps them with their mental health, and that's amazing. That is amazing, isn't it? You know, so it's long.
I'm gonna get you booked in, but you normally record on a Thursday for like the week sports, so 1 week maybe we do a special guest on.
Like the middle, but I love this, mate, honestly.
Anything else you want to...
thanks.
No.
Mate, can I be dead cheeky and get you to finish off on an impression?
Who do you want?
Mate,
come on, we'll do a few. Come on. So you say the character, and then...
something to do with like...
Question. Anything. Go on, this is like improv.
Love this. Go on.
Rafa, what do you think on your success of Lampard now at the helm of Everton?
Yeah, I think that we talk about Lamps. He was really good. I think that I've left him a good squad. So I think that Rondon up front was a fantastic player. So I think that Lamps can do the next part of the job and he can take Everton to the Championship. So. Agent Rafa. So yeah, I think that was really good. No, I think that we did a good job. We had some good players that were very hard for the club. So you can see. Yeah, good luck in the Championship to Everton. So okay.
I love it. Wait, it's just got to be Rooney for me. I reckon. What do you think of getting passed up for the Everton job?
Yeah, I think course, and I think that course they're in. The big problem was when the phone rang. I said, look, Mr. Mosley, I said, of course, I think what the most important thing is that the money's right. And he said, look, Wayne we'll give you £50,000 a week. And I said, look, I want more than that. I want £25,000 a week. And it was a great contract. But County Derby is looking to get promoted to League One, so that's a great example. So, but look, if things go really bad at Derby, we'll go to what are they called? Everton, yeah, sorry.
Mate, last one, mate. My one of my favourites, mate. Stevie, what do you think on Villa's chances for Europe this season?
I'm going to ruin it.
Yeah, of course. Look, it's a very difficult job. The players are working very hard. I've gone in with a lot of positivity. You know, my face tells you the story. I go in, I crack a big smile, say, boys, we can, you know, I look around and I say, incredible, amazing, fantastic, but when I stop speaking about myself, I tell the boys, you know, you're really good, we can do really well. And all the experience with Liverpool under fives, and, you know, winning the greatest league in Glasgow has really helped me to grow. And my 15 coaches I've got, they'll really help me as well. It's an incredible time. But yeah, of course, we're looking forward to the future. Getting paid loads of dough before I get off to Liverpool.
Darren, you're amazing, lad, honestly.
Thanks,
Thank you so much for your time, mate. And
anytime.
Can't wait to show your career progresses, mate.
Thanks, boys. I'll be back in next week for the sports.
Boss.
Permanent fixture.
Love it, man.
Sorry, I'm just getting on my phone.